Hi, in today's episode, we have Souvik Saha, founder of People for Change. He's based out of Jamshedpur. So I'm so happy to have you from Jamshedpur talking to us on this podcast today. Souvik is a development professional with more than 10 years of experience working with adolescent and youth in facilitating self-to-society journeys. He's going to tell us more about it. People for Change is a non-profit that works with adolescent and youth in enabling them with critical life skills to establish personal and social transformation, very much the need of the hour. People for Change also works in curating safe, non-judgmental spaces in communities that help young people freely express themselves, voice their concerns, and take action to build resilient communities. Souvik has founded Jamshedpur Queer, a support group for queer youth in Jharkhand and Jamshedpur. It's a group of over 400 youth volunteers in Jamshedpur that seek to solve local issues using local knowledge and resources. Welcome on today's podcast, Souvik, and let's begin with how when we started our conversation and you told me about how you always stood first in class and you are the first human being who says that it didn't make me happy. So share with me your journey.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Mahua. Thank you so much for inviting me today. And good morning to everybody who's listening. I think that's something strange. So I am from Jamshedpur and I have founded People for Change, which is an organization which works with young people and adolescents, like you said. So going back, I've grown up in Jamshedpur. I used to study in a private school in Jamshedpur. And so why I was not happy coming first also is that, I was fat. I was always fat and I've always been fat. And that was one sole reason why I was constantly bullied in school. And at that time, now when I look back and when we work with young people and I understand how bullying impacts children, I think our teachers were also sometimes they got very insensitive, passing
Not
some
sometimes. I
remark
think
which
a
would,
lot of teachers were very insensitive during the time we grew up, Yeah.
that's true. But they would just say something, without considering what an impact it had on me. So I had nothing else to do. I had no friends because, everybody would ridicule me. And my parents would say, handle it yourself because they wanted me to just be strong. I don't know. That's how they looked at it. I think that was their version of firming me up, maybe. And I used to study and I would come first. And the better I studied, and what happened is it alienated me further from my friends because anyways they did not play much with me. But when I started coming first, they thought that I had airs. And what it did for me was it kind of toughened me up in ways. I had a very sharp wit. Yeah. So I used to read a lot and I developed, I developed a wit and I used to use my wit and sarcasm, I think I would call it, and I could really hurt people who, at that time ridiculed me and I really gave it back to them. What this did in turn is it alienated me from the few friends that I already had. So I grew up in school without having any friends.
That must have been really, really tough.
It was when you are in school and you don't have peers, and you don't do the normal things that a schoolboy is supposed to be doing. Okay, so I have no bad memories, but I don't have good memories either of school. So this is how I grew up, and in terms of how my coming first was never a matter of happiness for me. It might have been right for my parents and others, but not for me at least.
So, how did that kind of take you forward? I mean, obviously, I relate to this very much because I've also been plump, and I remember very, very easily friends used to call me Moti. Uh, and
Yeah,
they never spared you. And I think I've done every diet in the world to try and be of a certain shape that I've wanted in my head to be
yeah,
like. And it's so, and I've gone through I don't know how many so many forms of sometimes just eating fruit, starving myself, and losing all the weight, and then again promptly gaining it back because it's such a yo-yo also, and
yes,
when you're young now, of course I've grown older and I have learned to, not fully, but I've learned to kind of love myself more for the other things that I have in me than just my body. But it has taken me many, many years. And the initial years went by, with me not liking my reflection because the words that it always echoed back of being called Moti. So I completely relate to that. I relate to this very, very well. And alienation also I relate to, because I studied in a school in Shillong where there was huge insurgency, and the Bengalis were being targeted. So there was this whole divide between the Khasis and the Bengalis, which was not spoken, but it was felt by many Bengalis, when we were growing up. And we did not fit into the norm of, I came from a very middle class Bengali home, and my hair used to be oiled, and like all many other girls, and so we never fit into the whole fashion scene when I was in Shillong, and even that kind of really alienated me. And it's really interesting that when you talk about this, that even now, Souvik, when people compliment me, I don't know how to say thank you gracefully, because I don't know if it has completely, I've been healed from that. So I completely relate to it. And it's very interesting how people like us, when you've gone through all of this in life, how you don't become bitter, but you become better as a person, and uh, you try and do something for people who you feel need a voice. And that is what you have started. And congratulations for, Jamshedpur Queer is something that it just got me so happy when I read it, because, to me, it was always, all these things were happening only in larger cities. We did not really get to know what is happening in the smaller, cities in India. And it's a,
Right.
yeah, because that's really not in the limelight for people living in Bangalore. We get news about what's happening in Bombay, in Delhi, in Kolkata, but in Jamshedpur, no. And it's really interesting to know that you have started this, because this voice is very, very important, Souvik, for people to really come out and be who they are, and not live forever trying to fit into the version of what others want out of you. So when we both were talking, you were telling me about the work that you've done for the trans women in Jamshedpur. It'll
Right.
be fantastic to know more about this from you.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll just prime you a bit about the work that we do, primarily People for Change. And you just mentioned Jamshedpur Queer Circle, that also came out as a result of the work that we do with young people, where we felt, and you aptly said, the space exists in bigger towns or in metros, but not in a city like Jamshedpur, which refuses to talk about it. So we
Yes.
have seen cases where I just remember a case where a young boy, he came out to his family, and the man works in Tata Steel. He's in a reputed position as father, and he threw him out at 12 o'clock in the night. The boy was in the
Wow, my
streets.
goodness. How young was the boy?
He was, I think he was 17.
Oh, dear.
And so there were cases like this. And then we always had our space, like People for Change. We have a value of being non-judgmental. It's an open space. So we have a lot of queer people coming to us, and they were confiding in us, but we did not have a support structure. And hence we started Jamshedpur Queer Circle. And I do agree when you say that it's absolutely needed. We've even started conversations of having these kind of conversations in school now. Because earlier we had big resistance from parents whenever we tried to talk even on sex and sex education. They said कि हमारे बच्चे ये सब नहीं करते हैं. So my entire idea of working at People for Change has always been to give a voice to the marginalized community. Because at that time in school, I had always felt left out and marginalized. And I had a strong need that you'll have to give a voice to everybody who's pushed to the periphery, whether by means of their race, their culture, their body size, their color. And coming to what you asked about the work with our transgenders, we started work on this exactly for this reason, because in Jamshedpur, and we were always working on health. One of our focus was on menstrual health. We work with women in Jharkhand, and so we started working on mental health with transgenders. Which slowly we started work with only 20 transgenders. Today we work with more than 500, and
Wow.
our work is so we intensively work with them. We last year in COVID, and even this year, we have reached out with rations weekly to over 350 transgender families. Because when we contacted the administration, they said that inka card nahi bana hai. They don't have, some of them don't have Aadhaar cards. Many don't have bank accounts. So that they were just left in the lurch. So, and they are in the city in front of your eyes, and nobody was doing anything about it. So we got together, and till date, we have been providing means. Even now, as I speak, we are distributing rations to over 350 families even this time. So food is only one small part of what we do. We work largely on providing and connecting them to social entitlements. We work on their health and we work on livelihoods. We have started exploring livelihoods for them. And it's very interesting when you work with the community where, so transgender again is confused by people as only working with hijras. It is not that. Transgender is again a big rainbow term, which is intersex people, which has hijras, which has many people who are non-binary. In many ways they are non-binary. So we work primarily with hijras and also with people who come under the umbrella. So
who are the people who come under the umbrella?
Under the umbrella of transgender. So the transgender is like an umbrella.
Yes.
It's like an umbrella, which is not only, so I said that it does not only comprise of people from the hijra community, because hijra would be a community. So there are people who are non-binary here. Okay. So there are people who are intersex, asexuals, all come under this term. So that's how we began working with them. Presently working with them now, we have also started working with transgenders in Chhattisgarh. So Chhattisgarh is a very, Chhattisgarh is probably the only government which has a lot of work going around with transgenders. They have a fabulous policy, have a fabulous and very strong transgender board. Jharkhand does not even have a board. So we have started working with Chhattisgarh as well. So this is how we would, the basic needs arise from, giving a voice to anybody who's on the periphery. So this is about our work with transgenders.
So explain to me some of the incidents that you've had. It'll really help even the listeners who are listening to our podcast right now, understand as to the kind of emotional challenges that you've faced while you've, tried to explain to them about social entitlement, explain to them that they have every right like you and me and everybody else, And my heart bleeds, when I see all of them standing on, because in big cities, you do find them in different parts of the street traffic junction, and they're begging all the time because nobody would want to give them, any work, or even because most of them are, shunned from their families the minute they get to know, that he or she is a hijra. And they're left and they have to join the community because the rest of the world is not going to accept them. And it's very interesting when you say this because, there is this whole, in that community also, they are shifted from city to city and from, traffic junction to the other. When I grew up in Delhi, I remember seeing a whole bunch of them. Every time there's a child who's born, they come to the house and they sing for you and they ask you for money. In many homes, they shun them away. In some homes, they think that it is auspicious to have them to bless you. But that's very far and few. And the lives that most hijras in India live, I apologize to be a human being, that if I apologize on this podcast that, I'm a human being and I'm okay to watch people for no damn fault of theirs to be out there on the streets, So it'll be very interesting to know from you because you've worked up close. I have, I'm sure the listeners would want to know as to the resistance sometimes also that you do face from the trauma that they've had. They don't want to trust you, when you want to offer them work or you promise them because they're so disillusioned with their past experiences. And it begins, I guess, in their own homes where I know of one hijra with whom I'd worked for a film, when I'd just begun MoodyMo, and I was very distraught because we had Durga Puja, and I just felt that you're a Bengali and I'm a Bengali too, and we know that it's a very inclusive festival where nobody cares from which social strata you come from, but the hijras were not allowed to enter that compound. I really felt bad about that, and then I ended up talking to one of them, and it was amazing because they were so warm and they were surprised that I was very okay, giving one of them a hug. And she came over home and she spoke to me and she said that her mother said that do not enter the house when it's daytime because your sister and your brother will not get married, and we please come in when it's like late at night. And then the father and the brothers obviously threw her out, and she had to come. And she was all of 17, all of 17, and my son was 17 at that time. I just didn't know, how I could even erase that pain from her. So Souvik, just tell us a little bit, because you have obviously much more experience than what I have. What is the kind of resistance that you face and how do you overcome that when you work in this sector?
Yeah. So I'll just take, take two examples here. One, so first of all, when you talk about trauma, so the trauma is, it's a trauma to survive daily when the entire odds are stacked against you. Okay, especially in a city. Fighting for your place in terms of the way you are, the way you want to express yourself, and also fighting for your daily bread. I think where you have nothing, so you are reduced to, and especially post lockdown. So there are primarily they're into two trades. One is badhai, that's singing, and the other is they would be going on trains. But trains having stopped, they're out there on the streets begging, and most of them have turned into prostitution.
Yes.
So that's again another problem. In Jamshedpur, many have taken to prostitution, and many are unwell because of no nutrition, and so there is no continuation of medicines. And whatever we are doing, whatever we can do. I just recall a case some 2 months back. We're talking about trauma. So what kind of trauma is there? There was this hijra, and very pretty, and we knew her. I'll not name her right now. And she fell in love. So it's very common for them. This entire need to be accepted and loved is so great, like any other human being. I think she was going around with a boy, and then and this usually happens where they go around with straight men and they have been abused physically and they have been abused mentally. So I think, and then she committed suicide.
Oh my God.
I know the case because I knew her. And so this is very common there. And then the second case that I remember is, we talk about inclusive workplaces. We talk about how corporates need to change. It's not even begun as yet.
Oh, they're not even given admission in schools. So
yes. So it has to begin somewhere. So some corporates have policies. But there were some hijras, when you make a policy, you have to consider the entire setup from which that person is coming. So for a hijra to go and work outside of the community, she has to leave the community. And she has to cut her hair. That means she can no longer come back to the community when she's left it. So if she cuts her hair and if she leaves the community, to come back to the community, she has to pay a fine. It's that strict.
But why is it like that? Souvik, I mean, I'm just trying to understand as to why would it be, because I think also within the community, I guess, that mental rehabilitation should begin, that if somebody is getting work and,
yes. No, but this is how the
system is.
Hijra society is structured.
Okay.
I'm talking about the Hijra society. It's very strict.
Okay.
It's a very, very strict social order.
What is the social order like, if you could just share with us?
So there are gurus or nayaks.
Yes.
Okay. Below which, they are middle-aged hijras who report higher up to their gurus. It's a lineage of guru parampara. Okay. And then there are hijras who are under her, and she further has chelas. So you have to get chelas under you, or you have to get disciples under you, and whatever you earn, a part of it goes to the guru or the nayak, who in turn offers protection, or who offers a common house from police, from other hijras, and they have got strict territories within which, so one doesn't cross into the territory of the other guru. So you have to be under the lineage of, under the, pay. So there should be somebody patronizing you there.
Okay.
Otherwise, you cannot get into the order without you having a guru. And this guru parampara is very strict there. So if you have to leave, you have to take permission of your guru, and then the guru does not allow you to come back. Or she decides whether you need to come back or not. Also, you have to understand that if a guru allows a chela to go, this means loss of earning for her. Because then she does not get a cash flow back to what the chela would be on. So it's a very complex order inside. So it's very difficult. Like one of our friends who works with us, she said, sir, hijra banna na loha ka chana chabana hai. लोगों को लगता है कि हम मेकअप करके और साड़ी पहन के, तो मैंने ये जो साड़ी पहना है वो कितने मुश्किल के बाद पहना है, और कितना जिल्लत और कितना परेशानी और कितना अपमान मुझको मिला होगा कि मैं मजबूर हुई साड़ी पहनने को, और अब मैं वापस नहीं जा सकती हूँ. So this is what she had to tell me. So she,
my God.
So now work, we know the structure there. So even so, when I'm saying that, there are some people who went to work in a factory who had to come back because of the kind of abuse that they received at their workplace, with men propositioning, asking them for sexual favors, because they believe that if it's a hijra, then it's very normal for you to go and ask for them of any sexual favor, and unko karna hi padega ye, because they are prostitutes. That's the general, so for this to change, is a humongous task for which, like you said, that everybody needs to get sensitized, and the sensitization should begin from school.
Yes, it has to
It
begin
should be
from
there,
school.
so you should have
Absolutely.
it should be there in the curriculum.
Yes.
So I think it should be there in the curriculum. So these are just two examples which are very recent. Beyond that, there are people who also stay in families. It's so convenient. So when you say that they're driven out of families, there are some hijras who would stay in families where the families would not accept them otherwise, but now the entire family is dependent upon the income of that transgender child. And hence they're allowed to stay in the family.
So it just boils down to the money.
Yes, it does. It does in that case. It does.
Sadly, that's how it is. Your value, because of the work that you do and the work I do too, it's so difficult to explain because just even getting the monetary funds to take something like this forward and take something like your project forward must be a humongous task because, like most people, they don't see any value in the kind of work that also, organizations like you strive to do.
Right.
Yeah. So
it is a struggle.
It is a huge struggle. Yes, it is a huge struggle. So, Souvik, just tell us a little about the youth there, who are like, you work in the Jamshedpur Queer Circle. How many people have really come up and opened up and spoken to you? Because I would assume so many of them remain confused and they don't want to address it and they are so scared. They may be so guilty if they like a man or a woman likes a woman and or somebody just doesn't like, sex. I mean, how does one acquire that kind of courage because it must be so small knit, right? Jamshedpur also.
And it's like any other small town. People know each other.
Yes,
Since
that's
everybody works in the family, so it's a lot. It's a very gossipy town.
Yeah. It is like that in all small towns.
Yeah, it's like a typical small town. So the problem here is these people would be better off if they go to a big city. But now Jamshedpur, since they're there and more so this happened because in lockdown all these young people are at home now. Jamshedpur after 12th you'll not find young people, but now they all came back 2 years back now. So 1.5 years they are home. They were all studying in colleges, so they have been completely cut off from their circles there. So this is one place where it's one place where where they can come and breathe because they can discuss anything. But coming out, we have had very few people come out and tell us, but we know them. But there are some people who have come and confided in us after, because it's just been 2 months now that Queer Circle has started. But yes, we have got people who have come and told us about that, because the space itself is a very supportive space. So we have, and this space also is not only about queer people, but it's also about allies. So we get in a lot of allies because we want to have this normal.
I'm an ally.
We want to normalize LGBTQ. We don't want to say that LGBTQ is different from any other. We do not go ahead with that agenda. Our agenda is very simple. You all are young people. Agar aap normal hai, straight hai, nobody said that you are straight or normal. That's something that
हम लोगों ने बनाया
society
इस
has
चीज को.
given you.
हाँ, बिल्कुल.
So there's nothing normal about you and there's nothing abnormal about them. So we try to normalize this entire dialogue. So we have support circles, have dialogues with allies and queer people. And the issues are then tackled together. So it has been wonderful. The experience has been wonderful. We have young people who have opened out, but who have not yet opened out at home because they are not confident.
How do they reach out to you, Souvik?
We work with young people. Okay.
When you say you work, how do they reach out to you? How do they get to know about you?
Our primary area of work is, in the beginning you had said that we create, we work in schools with adolescents, we work in colleges, and we work with community young people. So we work in urban Jamshedpur, we work in peri-urban areas of Jamshedpur, and we work in rural Jharkhand, in 2 districts, East and West Singhbhum. So all our work with young people is based on, creating these self-to-society journeys with them. So we basically centered around attitude and behavior change. So we do a lot of workshops. And we felt that because we knew many who had no space to talk. And then we said that, we need to start the circle. And they know us also because my office has queer people working with us. Because it's again a space where we encourage inclusion. So we have queer people working with us who in turn got their friends. And then we put out a Facebook post saying that we are opening and we would like to hold a first meeting. Anybody drop in. And you won't believe, our office is so small. We had more than 70 people dropping in that day. There was no space to sit.
How wonderful
just 70
is
people
that?
Just walked in at that particular time. And they have stayed on since. and we have expanded to include more members. So it's basically now offline discussions. We had 2 online parties. Yesterday we had our first online, virtual Pride. We had we had all the top transgender leaders and LGBTQI leaders and young LGBTQI idols in the country coming for our panel. So we had 5 panels yesterday, and we had
Congratulations on that, Souvik.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think that was really good for Jamshedpur. A large number of school principals came on board.
Oh wow, that is fantastic. You actually had school principals.
Yeah, and they shared, and we asked them. We took commitments from schools. We took commitment from a university to organize sessions there. So that was absolutely brilliant yesterday.
Fantastic.
So there's a Netaji Subhash University here. We got a commitment from them, and we are signing an MOU with them to talk about gender sensitivity and hold workshops there.
Congratulations, Souvik, on this. But Souvik, I was also reading about the fact that, you're a big fan of Ray, like me. I love Satyajit Ray's films, and he's Manikda.
I do.
So yeah, me too. And right now when I'm talking to you, I just have bang opposite me Pather Panchali poster, and I have Charulata, and Aparajita.
And I'm reading one book by Satyajit Ray called Fotik Chand. So it's just
Fotik Chand, of course I know. So while I'm talking to you, I'm looking at Opu Durga and her mother in Pather Panchali, and that's a film that it gets my throat in a knot, my heart in a knot, and I just don't know how my tears just flow down my eyes when I watch it, because sometimes I have to just I can go back on and on and on into these films, and so tell me, which is your favorite? Timeless. It's like poetry. Pather, there cannot be another finer film to me than Pather. They're among my favorite films is Pather Panchali. You tell me which is your favorite 100%. In Ray.
I like Agontuk. I am just a fan of Agontuk because I felt that it talks about human beings in such a good way. It talks about this entire structure of capitalism, the way we know it. And, it talks about some people very close to my heart, that is tribals, because I work with them. And how this character of Utpal Dutt,
oh man, he's phenomenal. He was phenomenal.
He was phenomenal. And how you were just talking about how money is important. So if you remember that he came and he said that, I'm your mama. And then the girl believes, but the husband refuses to believe. And then we have his friend coming over, who's a lawyer, established, educated, in quotes, lawyer, who comes and grills him, and how this man opens up, how we, with our limited education, I think we're just literates anyways. I mean, our system to hame literate hi banata hai. How we with our limited education have gone on to assume that we know everything. And you call somebody jungly. So this is a very racist term that is used here. The Adivasis ko jungli bula rahe hain. People who live with this, it's we who should be going back there and need to understand how, the construct that we live in right now. That movie brings it out so beautifully. I think that is going to be another timeless piece. So yeah, I can go on and on about Agontuk. I think I love it. I love Konoshotru. It's such a beautiful document on how politics works and the politics of a family. The basis of politics is family. I've always believed.
Yes, I think so too. That's where we are shaped up as people.
Yes, we
are.
So
we are shaped up as people right
brings
there.
That out beautifully. So love these 2 movies and many, many more. I think all of Feluda. I think Feluda is my eternal favorite.
Yes, Feluda was a book that was done every Sunday with my son. Now he's in London. And just recently, there was one, I think there was a Facebook post that I'd seen of people trying to restore some of the films and then trying to form a Feluda society. And I've not been able to get in touch with them after that because, for my son and me, the bonding that we did on Sundays, was just reading all the Feluda stories together. And my Bangla is a little poor. I mean, I don't read it so well, but the English versions were very, very good too. And I had both the volumes, of Feluda. And of course, I mean, we've seen Shoumitro and and been completely Shoboshachi also. And yes, I mean, there's nothing like Ray's Timeless. And there were so many more other filmmakers. But to me, Pather Panchali is home because I keep going back to that film and watching Madhavi and Charulata is like, right now when I'm talking to you, my heart is getting into a knot. So it's been fantastic, Souvik, to talk to you. And I think I need to speak
Same
to you
here.
offline, and we need to get in more people, with the work that you're doing, because my podcast is all
Definitely.
about bringing to the fore about issues that a lot of people all across do not speak or talk about or even hear. So this is my first interview with somebody from Jamshedpur, and to me, this is an honor. And I'm
Thank you
honored
so
that
much.
you're here on my podcast today.
The
And
honor is all mine. I loved talking to you. It's such
yeah,
fun.
and I look forward to meeting you in person. And my work is
Same
all, about migrant women and about gender issues. My work, my writing is mainly about people who do not have a voice. For them, people like us need to go out and tell their story.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah, we have to. I mean, I think also the pandemic has been such a learning for all of us that eventually, when you are in that hospital or you're dead, it doesn't matter which religion, what was your sexual, identity, who you are. It just didn't matter, because I remember a post that had the Ganga with so many bodies that had come afloat. I mean, who do you know who you are? And I think it's time for all of us to really wake up and smell the coffee and become more sensitive. So fantastic work that you do. I am so happy once
Thank you so
again.
much.
And so just to end the podcast, I will say that Souvik has been actively involved in individual and organizational capacity, working over 500 transgenders and sex workers on issues of health, social entitlement, and livelihood. We wish Souvik all the very best and your future endeavor. And I do hope to meet you either in Jamshedpur or in Bangalore once this lockdown is over. Onek dhanyabad.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Onek dhanyabad.
Onek dhanyabad. Thank you. To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services. Find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course, all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are MoodyMo Awaaz Podcast, where Hatke is hot.